have 6 judicial nominees: Judge Susan Bezos, nominated to the District of Nebraska; Mr. Ernest Gonzalez, nominated to the Western District of Texas; Judge Anne Marie McKiff Allen, nominated to the District of Utah; Judge Kelly Rankin, nominated to the District of Wyoming; Judge Leon Scheidler, I hope I pronounced that correctly, also nominated to the Western District of Texas; and Judge Robin Merriweather, nominated to the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. Congratulations to all the nominees and their families. As Senator Cornyn pointed out last week, several Senate Republicans, including himself and Senator Cruz, have identified well-qualified candidates for district court vacancies in their states. In fact, each of today's district court nominees has received blue slips from their Republican home state senators. So I'd like to thank my colleagues from Nebraska, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming, as well as President Biden, for this good faith bipartisan effort to fill these vacancies. I took that approach myself during the Trump administration and have pointed out that we filled all 8 district court vacancies in Illinois during those 4 years. Many of my Democratic colleagues did the same. Those efforts and today's panels are further proof that Senate's blue slip tradition can work as intended when we have bipartisan cooperation. I continue to urge my colleagues to make similar efforts in their states. I'm now going to turn to Senator Graham for opening remarks.
If it's okay, Mr. Chairman, could we hear from our 2 colleagues, and I'll make an opening statement so they can go on about their business. It'll be short, but let them go and speak.
I invite Senator Fisher and Senator Barrasso to speak. Who's first? Senator Fisher, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ranking Member Graham. I'm here to express my support for Judge Susan Bezos as she pursues confirmation to the judicial vacancy in the United States District Court for the District of Nebraska. I was honored to recommend Judge Bezos for this position to the White House last year. Judge John Girard, who previously served in this seat, assumed senior status last year. He has served Nebraskans justly and faithfully for the past 3 decades. Judge Girard leaves behind an incredible legacy. He must be followed by an exemplary candidate with undeniable skill and integrity, and Judge Bezos is exactly that. She has a keen legal mind and tremendous expertise and competence in applying the law. She has decades of experience as an attorney, a judge, and a public servant. Judge Bezos is exceptionally qualified. The American Bar Association Standing Committee recommended her unanimously as well qualified, the highest possible rating. Her record speaks for itself. Judge Bezos has served as a federal magistrate judge for the District of Nebraska for 7 years. She is already highly familiar with the court, its processes, and its immense caseload. Unlike other district courts across the country, Nebraska's district judges intentionally use the court's magistrate judges to their fullest extent. This ensures maximum efficiency for the court. Judge Bezos is accustomed to a busy docket of cases she must address quickly and thoroughly. This has prepared her well for the demands of Nebraska's federal bench. Over the course of her lengthy career, Judge Bezos has had well-rounded experience in both criminal and civil law. Before she was selected for her current position, she was a Nebraska County Court judge for Douglas County for nearly a decade. Her experience is not only reflected in her legal abilities, but also in her fair-minded temperament, her professional character, and her integrity. As part of her role as a magistrate judge, Judge Bezos has demonstrated initiative and skill in a broad range of areas. Not only does she work tirelessly to administer justice impartially, but she works to make the court system more productive and effective. She focuses on ensuring security in the courts and using technology to increase judicial efficiency. She is also a member of the Consortium of Tribal, State, and Federal Courts, where she works to improve the working relationship among the courts. She is dedicated to strengthening public trust in the judicial system and expanding access to that system. Judge Basis' qualifications and commitment to upholding our laws and our Constitution leave no questions about her ability to take on this role as a federal judge. Her confirmation to Nebraska's federal bench is also urgently needed to ensure that we fill this outstanding vacancy in a timely manner. I encourage all of my colleagues to enthusiastically support this nomination. I offer my sincere congratulations to Judge Basis for this honor, and I unequivocally recommend her for this seat. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Fisher. Of course, we're happy to have you here, and as part of the program, we understand that the schedules of all of our visiting senators sometimes don't allow them to stay for the hearing, but we appreciate your being here.
Thank you,
now
sir.
recognizing the senators from Wyoming, Senator Barrasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the committee for giving me this opportunity, and it's a great honor to join Senator Lummis in introducing Judge Kelly Rankin at this hearing today. But I want to share my great appreciation to you personally, Mr. Chairman. For almost a year, we have talked about this well-qualified and bipartisan nominee. And now that the White House has made the nomination, I want to thank you for expediting the process, and thank you for all of your efforts. I wholeheartedly support the nomination of Kelly Rankin. I've known him for many years. Great to see his wonderful family here today as well. I'd like to recognize his wife, Cindy, is here. She's a speech pathologist at Cheyenne McCormick Junior High and Central High School. Many of you may also recognize the two sons that are here. Both participated as Senate pages. They were on the Senate floor with us. Harrison, currently a junior at the University of Wyoming, participated as a page sponsored by Senator Mike Enzi. And I sponsored Sam as a page in 2021. Sam is currently a freshman at the University of Wyoming. Now, Kelly's mom, Mandy, worked here in the Senate for many years, working with then Wyoming Senator Malcolm Wallop. As you can tell, Kelly Rankin's roots to our great state run deep. He's a Wyoming native, born and raised in Sheridan, went on to attend the University of Wyoming, where he earned his Bachelor of Science degree and a law degree. His life has been dedicated to public service. Greatly respect Kelly Rankin's knowledge of the laws, dedication to the Constitution. For nearly 30 years, he has been a respected member of the Wyoming State Bar. Served at almost every level of government, and he's going to bring years of valuable experience to the federal bench. Judge Rankin started his career as a deputy county attorney, spent nearly 18 years prosecuting cases in state and federal courts. In 2008, he was confirmed by the Senate with a voice vote to serve as U.S. Attorney for Wyoming. He went on to work as the counsel for the governor, then Democrat governor of Wyoming, Dave Friedenthal. And I should add that Kelly has significant bipartisan support. Governor Friedenthal and Wyoming Democrat Governor Mike Sullivan both strongly support the nomination, and Governor Sullivan was also President Bill Clinton's ambassador to Ireland. Currently, Kelly serves as the Chief United States Magistrate Judge. Mr. Chairman, Judge Rankin has my full support. His impressive record, incredible professionalism, and unwavering commitment to the Constitution will make him a great member of the federal bench. I ask each of you to support and quickly pass his nomination. Thank you, Mr.
Senator.
Chairman.
Senator Lummis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Graham. I wholeheartedly join my colleague, Senator Barrasso, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce Judge Kelly Rankin to this committee. I could not be more supportive of Judge Rankin's nomination to the U.S. District Court for the District of Wyoming. For the last 11 and a half years, Judge Rankin has served the people of Wyoming as a magistrate judge, deciding matters in criminal and civil cases spanning from Cheyenne in southeast Wyoming to Yellowstone National Park in the Northwest. He has even been called upon by the districts of Colorado and New Mexico to assist with caseloads in those jurisdictions. He's the past United States Attorney, an important matter of public service, also counsel to the governor and Park County Attorney in Cody, Wyoming. While Judge Rankin has a wealth of experience in the law and the administration of justice, it is his judicial temperament and character that are most impressive. A judge must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and have an innate drive to understand all sides of an issue. Through all the opportunities I've had to interact with Judge Rankin over the years, I have found that he is a fine exemplar of all these qualities. Most importantly, I believe Judge Rankin will faithfully interpret the U.S. Constitution, the laws enacted by Congress, and the precedents of the U.S. Supreme Court and the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. I also believe he will continue to be a committed public servant to the people of Wyoming and a very impressive member of the judiciary of whom you will be proud. I'm certainly proud to recommend Judge Rankin for your consideration. I join Senator Barrasso in enthusiastic support of his nomination, and I'm happy to take any questions from this committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thanks, Senator Lummis. We welcome our friends who've spoken on behalf of the nominees. We know they have to leave, but you're always welcome at the committee. Now we have Senator Cornyn, who will introduce Mr. Gonzalez and Judge Scheidlauer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to introduce these two outstanding consensus nominees from Texas, Judge Leon Scheidlauer and Ernest Gonzalez. Judge Scheidlauer has been nominated to fill the vacancy in the El Paso division of the Western District of Texas. Actually, El Paso is closer to the Pacific Ocean than it is to the eastern tip of Texas, which is Beaumont. Give you an idea where it's located. It's way out there. This nominee has a unique and extremely impressive resume that illustrates his longstanding commitment to the rule of law and the people of this great country. In 2015, he has served since 2015. He served as a U.S. magistrate judge, which we heard a lot about here a moment ago. As a magistrate judge, he has helped resolve complex discovery matters, held hundreds of hearings, and earned the respect of the El Paso bar for his work. As though being a magistrate judge isn't enough responsibility, especially one located on the U.S.-Mexico border, Judge Scheidlauer has also served in the U.S. Air Force Reserve Judge Advocate Corps since 2010. He currently holds the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. Before his current role as a magistrate judge, this nominee spent part of his career in private practice handling complex federal criminal defense cases, commercial litigation, and international business disputes. While in private practice, Judge Scheidlauer continued to pick up cases on what is called the Criminal Justice Act panel. As my colleagues know, CJA attorneys ensure that criminal defendants get the representation that they are entitled to under the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. Before returning home to Texas, Judge Scheidlauer also served as a Special Assistant United States Attorney for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Hawaii. And I'd like to note that this nominee has served in not just one, but two branches of the United States military. From 1996 to 2004, he served in the U.S. Navy and attained the rank of lieutenant before he was honorably discharged. I know he'll have to field some tough questions today, but I promise I won't ask Judge Scheidlauer whether he prefers the Air Force or the Navy. On a personal note, I enjoyed speaking to the judge about his military service and hearing about the service of his father, who I understand who is watching from home. Judge Scheidlauer's father retired as a colonel in the United States Army. Mine retired as a colonel in the United States Air Force. And Judge Scheidlauer saw a living example of what it means to serve the country with distinction. So, Judge, welcome to you and your family, and congratulations. I also have the privilege of introducing Ernest Gonzalez, who's been nominated to fill the vacancy in the Del Rio Division for the Western District of Texas. Those who aren't familiar with Texas geography, El Paso and Del Rio have some heavy dockets because of their proximity to the U.S.-Mexico border. So these are very important positions that are being nominated for today. Mr. Gonzalez has spent most of his career in public service as well. He currently serves as a senior advisor to the Department of Justice's Criminal Division as part of the Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs section. Before that, he served for 2 decades as an assistant U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Texas, where he managed one of the largest dockets of any federal prosecutors in the Department of Justice. With over 230 jury trials, Mr. Gonzalez investigated and prosecuted some of the most dangerous cartel members around the world. He became one of the nation's most prolific cartel prosecutors in the process. Mr. Gonzalez previously served for 3 years as a U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas in Del Rio and 6 years as the Assistant District Attorney in Bexar County. Throughout his career, Mr. Gonzalez has prioritized training our law enforcement partners in other countries to establish strong bilateral cooperation on shared law enforcement and national security matters. One of the things I appreciate about Mr. Gonzalez is his commitment to helping train young prosecutors and law enforcement personnel. As we all know, it's harder and harder for lawyers to get trial practice in courtrooms. It's easier in the criminal dockets than it is in the civil dockets these days, but I think it's absolutely essential that we continue to train the next generation of advocates in our courts, and Mr. Gonzalez has spent quite a bit of time doing that. He graduated from the University of Texas at San Antonio in 1987 and the Thurgood Marshall School of Law in 1993. His temperament, his knowledge of the law, and ability to handle a large docket will serve the Del Rio Division of the Western District well. So, Mr. Gonzalez, congratulations to you and your family on this nomination, and I look forward to supporting your nomination.
Thanks, Senator Cornyn. Next is Senator Lee, here to introduce Judge McKiff Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm so grateful to President Biden for his willingness to nominate Judge Anne Marie McKiff Allen to the U.S. District Court for the District of Utah. I've known Judge Allen for 30 years. She and I were law school classmates. Judge Allen, even back then, had the perfect temperament for a judge, never drawing attention to herself, but always prepared. She had a steady, quiet, and always dignified approach. One that inspired respect from all of her classmates. We, over time, got to know Judge Allen's husband and soon came to realize that they were the power couple. You know, there are a small handful of people in law school who are married to another law student, but the Allens were the power couple of our law school. Randy was a year ahead of us, and we always went to Randy for sage, wise advice, which he always had. He's very smart. I told them at the time, it's almost not fair for the two of you to be married to each other. You're going to mess up the gene pool for everybody else's kids. And speaking of that gene pool, we're pleased here to have all three of the Allens' kids, and as well as the spouses of their two married kids. We've got Matthew and his wife, Louisa, and we've got Lauren and her husband, Will, and we have Eliza. And we're looking for that someone special out there someday. The Allens also apparently have more in common with Judge Rankin than I would have realized, because like Judge Rankin, Judge Allen has two children who have served as Senate pages. Lauren and Eliza were both here as pages. I was frankly kind of offended that Matthew never expressed interest, but we'll take that up for a different day. In any event, the Allens are here in full support. I've asked them to serve in the same role as Taylor Swift in the cheering section of a Chiefs game. That'll be sure to happen. Judge Allen brings a wealth of experience and background to this as a practicing lawyer, as someone who's served in the public and private sector, as someone who's been the general counsel of Southern Utah University, who's handled clients and matters in a wide range of civil, criminal, and family court matters, and as someone who brings a wealth of experience as a judge over the last few years. She is very well suited for this position, and if confirmed, will be filling a role that will be stationed in Southern Utah, our first full-time post for that position from the outset, being based in St. George, Utah. So it's without hesitation and with great pleasure that I introduce Judge Anne Marie McKiff Allen to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lee. Senator Romney was unable to join us in person today, but he asked that a statement of introduction and support for Judge McKiff Allen be entered into the record, which will happen without objection. We have one other nominee I'd like to personally introduce. Today we'll hear from Judge Robin Merriweather, nominated to the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. Judge Merriweather received her undergraduate degree from the University of Michigan and her JD from Yale Law School. After graduating law school, she clerked for then Judge Merrick Garland on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Judge Merriweather then entered private practice at Jenner & Block here in D.C., focusing on complex civil litigation and matters involving constitutional, statutory, and regulatory claims. She joined the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia in 2007, where she spent 6 years serving as Deputy Chief of the Civil Division. 2017 became a magistrate judge on the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. In her time on the bench, she's presided over several trials and has issued more than 1,000 orders. Congratulations, Judge Merriweather, to you and your family. I look forward to hearing your testimony. And now, as the nominees approach the table, I would ask Senator Graham if he has any opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very quick. Sort of two good news stories and one not so good. Good news is that the committee has been able to work with the White House through you to get qualified nominees from red states, and I appreciate my colleagues for being able to do that. Mr. Chairman, I know you were instrumental in getting some of these people over the line, so thank you. And to my colleagues, I really do appreciate that. It's good for the committee. Next week, some good news. This committee will come together in a bipartisan way to push hard against the social media companies in this country that are pretty much unregulated, unaccountable, and I look forward to that hearing big time. And I appreciate you working with us to put that hearing on. So if you're doing nothing next week, next Wednesday, you might want to watch this, because I think there'll be some good information coming about from the hearing as to what the country needs to do to deal with social media. We're also involved in negotiations about Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and a border. Not so good news. Behind me, I have two charts, and I'll be quick. The average number of people paroled during the Obama-Trump presidency was about 5,600. This was supposed to be done on an individual case-by-case basis. Two unique factors: one, unique humanitarian need or special benefit to the country. By statute, it's supposed to be an individual analysis. As you can see from the charts behind me, the Biden administration has had a 20,000% increase in parole. They paroled over 800,000 people in FY 2022, over 800,000 people in FY 23. Calendar year FY 23 was about 1.2 million. This has got to stop. This is an abuse of the law. There's a lawsuit pending about blanket parole, but I cannot in good conscience vote for a bill that does not restrict and bring the Biden administration back in line with the law when it comes to parole. This has been abused way too long. Over 2 million people have been paroled into the country, and here's my concern. No matter what you do with asylum, and we've done some really good stuff on the asylum reform, expedited removal, if the parole tool is not addressed, it can undercut everything we've achieved. So, Mr. Chairman, to you and your colleagues, I would like to get a deal on the border that will open up money for Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel, but we have to deal with the abuse of parole to get there, and the proposals on the table are short of what I think we need. So I just want to bring it to your attention that I think every Republican is committed to making sure that parole is not being abused, will not be abused in the future as it has been in the past. Thank you.
Senator Graham, you've been forthright in your position on this issue, and I respect you for it. I am not a party to the actual negotiation that's taking place. There are 3 senators who are involved in it, and it's being led on your side by, I think, someone who's respected by your members, and I respect him as well. And I hope that they can come forward with a proposal. I don't know what it will include in terms of parole or any other issue, and I'll wait and see that that comes forward. One of the areas that is contingent on this effort is the aid to Ukraine. If you were following it in the news, you know that they're fighting for their lives, and they're falling behind in terms of the volume of warheads and other things being thrown at them. I wear this little lapel pin and others like it as a reminder of my commitment to the Ukrainian people against Vladimir Putin. I hope we can work out these issues on border security and other issues still pending. But remember, this is a matter of life and death for thousands of people in Ukraine who are fighting every day for their survival. So we'll, at this point, ask the nominees to come forward to the witness table to be sworn in. Please remain standing when you arrive at your chair. You've seen this done before. Let's close the door. Will someone please close the door? Thank you very much. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give before the committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record reflect that all nominees, thank goodness, have answered in the affirmative. And each will now have an opportunity to make an opening statement. Judge Bezos, please proceed with your opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Durbin and Ranking Member Graham, as well as all of the other members of the Judiciary Committee for holding this hearing today. I want to thank President Biden for nominating me, and I want to thank my home state senators, Deb Fischer and Pete Ricketts, for their support of my nomination. I want to further thank Senator Fischer for her kind words today. I also want to thank Judge Girard for taking senior status, for if that had not happened, I would not be here today. I would not have gotten here without the love and support of my family. I want to thank my mother, who unfortunately passed away 12 years ago. My mother was an extraordinary woman who instilled in me, as well as all of my siblings, a strong work ethic and to always treat others how you want to be treated. She would have loved to have been here today, and I know she is here with me in spirit. To my father and
Please continue.
Thank you. To my father and stepfather, who passed away long before my mother, who both taught me that hard work pays off and that you need to have some fun along the way. I want to thank my husband, who I have been happily married to for the last 24 years. We became friends in high school, and he has been my biggest cheerleader and supporter in everything I've done ever since then. And I would not be here today without his love and support. To his mother, I want to thank her for her love and support and really stepping in as a second mother to me after my mother passed away. I will never be able to truly express how much that has meant to me, and I appreciate all her love and support. I also want to thank all of our family and all of our friends who have supported me during this process. To everyone watching at home, the rest of my family, all of my brothers and sisters and their spouses, as well as my nieces, nephews, cousins, and my last living aunt, who will turn 100 in April, so happy early birthday, Aunt Pat. Thank you for all your love and support, and I would not be here without you. I want to thank all of the lawyers that I have worked with who have mentored me in my career. I have been fortunate to work with and learn from some of the best and brightest lawyers in Nebraska. I would not be here without meeting and learning from each and every one of you. I want to thank my state court family that I worked with for almost 10 years. This includes not only the judges I worked with, but all of the staff and lawyers that made the highest volume court in the state operate smoothly every single day. I want to express how I truly appreciate all of the support you have given me throughout my time as a state court judge, as well as the presiding judge of that court and through this process. I also want to thank my federal court family, which also includes the staff and lawyers who keep the Nebraska federal courts running smoothly every single day, and for all of their support that they have given me throughout this process. It means the world to me. I also want to give a special thanks to my judicial assistant, my courtroom deputy, and my law clerk for their support during this process and for everything they do each and every day for me. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with all of you so closely for the last 7 years. I look forward to the committee's questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge Bezos. Mr. Gonzalez.
Chair Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, thank you for scheduling today's hearing. It is a privilege to appear before this committee. Thank you, Senator Cornyn, for your very kind introduction. I am sincerely grateful to Senator Cornyn and Cruz, my home state senators, for their steadfast support and endorsement of my nomination as a district court judge. I would also like to thank President Biden for this nomination, which is truly an honor. I am acutely aware that this opportunity is a result of the exemplary values instilled by my parents, Ramiro and Enedelia Gonzalez. As immigrants and former farm workers with a sixth-grade education, my parents sought a better life for themselves and their 7 children in this great nation. Their emphasis on diligent study and education as a gateway to broader opportunities has been a guiding principle for me. Despite their passing, their spiritual influence continues to provide unwavering guidance. Allow me to introduce my wife, Leticia, whose constant support has been a source of inspiration throughout our many years of marriage. Our pride and joy, our daughter, Chelsea, who recently achieved her master's degree and dedicates herself to serving the visually challenged community as a low-vision therapist. Allow me also to acknowledge my brother, Jose Luis Gonzalez, an assistant United States attorney in the El Paso, Texas office, and his wife, Dr. Yvonne Maldonado, as well as my sister, Dr. Elizabeth Gonzalez, and my niece, Catherine. I would like to express my gratitude to their unwavering, steadfast support. I would also like to extend my thanks to my siblings and others that are watching back home, my 81-year-old mother-in-law, Gloria, and the prayer partners at St. Mark's Catholic Church for their constant prayers. Recognition is also due to my colleagues at the Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs section here in Washington, D.C., and the U.S. Attorney's offices in the Eastern and Western District of Texas for their support. I am indebted to the role models throughout my legal career, with special acknowledgments to the U.S. attorneys and the district judges in the Eastern and Western Districts of Texas for their invaluable guidance. Senators, I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gonzalez. Judge McIff-Allen.
Good morning, Chair Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and Senators. Thank you for your invitation to appear before you today as you consider my nomination as a district court judge for the District of Utah. I acknowledge the important constitutional checks and balances that this committee's work embodies. I am grateful to President Biden for his nomination. Thank you, Senator Lee, for your warm introduction. I am humbled by your and Senator Romney's support. I appreciate the support of my fellow Southern Utah judges, lawyers, court staff, and everyone at home. My parents, Kay and Renee McKiff, have both passed on but are with me in spirit. They were born and raised in Southern Utah farming families who were part of the Western pioneer legacy. My father's early childhood was spent in a home with no indoor plumbing, and they plowed their fields with a horse because there was no money for a tractor. My mother's parents were beekeepers on the southwest desert of Utah, and both families had to start over from scratch after the fathers, my grandfathers, returned from service in the Second World War. But they had great wealth in the values of integrity, faith, and hard work. And if confirmed, I will be so pleased to serve in the same place where these special people lived their lives. My dad eventually became a lawyer in Southern Utah, and when I was a small girl, he would often bring me to court with him. The reverence and decorum of the courtroom left a strong impression on me from an early age. Every day now in my Southern Utah courtroom, I remember those lessons, and I work to stay true to the values of fairness and dignity that I witnessed as a young girl sitting next to my dad. Thank you also to the entire McKiff and Allen families who are uniformly filled with rock-solid contributors. My husband of 30 years, Randy Allen, is here with me today. He has been my best friend and biggest supporter since we met in the college library so many years ago. All of my children and their spouses are here, and I am grateful to them for traveling across the country to be with me. My son Matthew is in medical school, and his wife Louisa is in law school. My daughter Lauren is also in law school, and her husband will start medical school in the fall. My daughter Eliza is an undergraduate student in nursing. They are all great people, and it is my privilege to be their mom. I love the people of the state of Utah and of this great country, and I have no agenda other than to serve as an honorable judge. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much, Judge. Judge Rankin?
Good morning, Chair Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and distinguished members of this committee. It is an honor to appear before you. I want to extend a hearty special thank you to Senators Barrasso and Lummis and their staffs for their support. And thank you, Senator Barrasso and Senator Lummis, for the very kind introductions this morning. I thank President Biden for this profound honor of his nomination. I would also like to extend my deep appreciation to Governors Dave Friedenthal and Mike Sullivan for their tremendous support. Without the generous support of each of these people, I would not be here today. I have several family members with me this morning. First, my wife, Cindy. She has been the love of my life and partner in all things for the last 30 years. I can't thank her enough for her love and support during our journey together. My two amazing sons, Harrison and Sam, are here from college. They are so excited to be back on Capitol Hill today. I'm so proud of my boys and all their life journeys, and thank you for keeping your dad grounded at all times. My mother, Mandy, and father, Jerry, are also here. My parents instilled in me the value of hard work, treating everyone with kindness, and the importance of public service. Their unwavering support and love have brought me here today. My sister Emily is here. She is a remarkable attorney with a remarkable career of service to others, and she's an even better mother to her 10-year-old son. My brother Mike is with us. He too is an attorney. He also is a retired FBI agent following a decorated period of service and career of service to our nation. Today, he provides his security expertise to the NFL. He too is an incredible father. Thank you, each of you, for being here, and thank you for your love and support. I also want to extend a heartfelt thank you to my other family members who are watching from afar. Please know that I very much appreciate all your love and encouragement, and I would not be here without each of you. And to my amazing court family, I also would not be here without you. This includes my incredible judicial colleagues. Thank you, each of you, for your counsel, mentorship, and friendship. I want to especially recognize and honor the distinguished career of Judge Nancy Friedenthal. She is the 7th district judge in our court's 134 history and the first woman to serve in that role. It's an honor to be nominated to take her place. Judge, thank you for your service to our court and nation. And a special thanks to our terrific clerk of court, Maggie Botkins, and her staff. I am fortunate to work with each of you. I also want to acknowledge my wonderful chamber staff, John, Joe, and Mian, and all of our former law clerks for their friendship and many meaningful contributions to our court. I want to extend a special thank you to all of the dedicated and hardworking attorneys of the Wyoming State Bar. I am proud to be a Wyoming lawyer. There are many others who have had a profound impact on me. To all of you, thank you. And finally, to those who have passed along your prayers and well wishes, your support is very much felt and appreciated. Thank you to the committee for holding this hearing today, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thanks, Judge Rankin. Judge Scheidlauer, did I get close in pronouncing your name correctly?
Very close, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Please
Scheidlauer. Chairman Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and distinguished members of the committee, I cannot express in words how honored I am to be before you this morning. Senator Cornyn, thank you for that wonderful and gracious introduction and your reference to my father. I'm profoundly grateful to you and Senator Cruz for recommending me to President Biden. I would also like to thank the Texas Federal Judicial Evaluation Committee, who screens, evaluates, and recommends federal judicial candidates to Senators Cornyn and Cruz. And finally, I thank President Biden for nominating me to be a United States District Judge for the Western District of Texas. With me this morning is my family. My wife, Lisa, is my life partner, best friend, and love of my life. We were high school sweethearts, and we've been married 27 years. She's been my ultimate rock and support. I would not be here without her. Our oldest daughter, Katrina's here. She's a third-year law student in Houston. Our younger daughter, Alexandra's here. She just graduated from Texas A&M last month. And our youngest, Dan, is here. He's a freshman at the University of Texas. My parents, Manuel and Elizabeth, are watching live from El Paso, and I'd like to thank them for all the love and support they've given me my entire life. My dad spent his life pursuing service of this country and his community. A pediatrician, he retired from the U.S. Army as a colonel after 20 years of service and spent the remainder of his career as a medical school professor and dean of admissions. He was and is my inspiration for military and public service. My mom is the heart and soul of our family. My brother and sister are watching from Texas, and I thank them for their love and support. I also thank my father and mother-in-law, Hank and Cindy Felix, for their nearly lifelong support and love. Finally, I'd like to thank my court family, including my judicial colleagues and friends, for their mentorship and friendship. I pay special tribute to my close-knit Chambers family, Erica Portillo and Veronica Medina, for their unbelievable professionalism, excellence, and dedication. Erica's been with me 17 years now. I also thank the rest of my family members and friends watching from El Paso and around the country. And finally, I'd like to say I'm honored to nominate to fill the seat of United States District Judge Philip R. Martinez, who we lost tragically and prematurely at the young age of 63 in 2021. I thank President Biden for nominating me to fill Judge Martinez's shoes, and I know at the outset I will never truly fill them. I look forward to answering the committee's questions.
Thank you very much, Judge. Judge Merriweather.
Thank you, Chair Durbin, Ranking Member Graham, and all members of the committee for giving me the privilege of appearing before you and for considering my nomination. I also would like to thank you, Chair Durbin, for the kind words of introduction. Thank you to President Biden for the honor of this nomination. I am grateful to have the support of my family and friends today, both with me here and watching virtually from Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, Virginia, the Carolinas, and a few other states in this country. I am particularly delighted to share this moment with my father, Jesse Merriweather, who traveled here from Romulus, Michigan, undeterred by sleet and snow. My father and my late mother had an unshakable belief in my potential, pride in my achievements, and a commitment to giving me a chance to pursue my dreams. Through education and hard work, they strove to give me opportunities that exceeded what they could have dreamed of when they were children. Without that foundation, I would not be sitting before the committee today. I would also like to introduce my husband, Jay Bonds, who after 17 years of marriage and many life changes, remains my true life partner and true friend. My 10-year-old daughter is also present here with me today. She brings joy and pride to my heart. Since I began my legal career as a law clerk 25 years ago, through my time in private practice, the Justice Department, and as a magistrate judge, I have worked with extraordinary judges, attorneys, paralegals, and staff who have mentored, inspired, trained, and supported me. I lack the time to list them all by name, but they have each touched my life in many ways and made me a better judge, lawyer, and person. I also greatly appreciate my wonderful colleagues and the staff at the District Court for the District of Columbia, whose support and collegiality throughout my time as a magistrate judge has been invaluable. I would also like to acknowledge and thank my current and former law clerks, some of whom are present today, and my amazing current and former courtroom deputies. It has been an honor to serve as a magistrate judge in the District Court for the District of Columbia, and it would be an honor to serve as a judge on the United States Court of Federal Claims. Thank you again to the committee. I look forward to answering your questions today.
Thank you very much, Judge Merriweather. Every nominee goes through a long investigation and questioning process, so the abbreviated experience today should be no reflection on the fact that they've filled out questionnaires and answered many questions to reach this point. The major question, which most of us have, is for Judge McIfal, and that, of course, is some insight into Mike Lee as a fellow law student. We just wonder if he was as shy, reserved then as he is now. But we'll hold that question. Judge, you spent a significant time serving the state of Utah as both a prosecutor and criminal defense attorney. There's often concern on this committee as to whether or not someone ends up prejudiced one way or the other after going through those experiences. Can you tell me what you learned and how you would balance your experience with the cases that you may face?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I credit as one of the good fortunes of my legal career that I had a significant stint as both a criminal defense attorney and as a prosecuting attorney. When I was a criminal defense attorney, I was tempted to believe that that was certainly the more difficult role. And then when I became a prosecutor, I understood that there were plenty of difficulties in both roles, plenty of challenges, and plenty of opportunities to do good in the law. So I am grateful that I had the perspective that both of those roles brought, and I think it has made me a stronger judge and will continue to benefit and inform my perspective if I'm so fortunate to be confirmed for this role.
Mr. Gonzalez, let me follow up with the same type of questioning. Over the course of 29 years as a prosecutor, you've tried more than 250 jury trials to verdict, more than 120 state jury trials, and more than 135 federal jury trials. Amazing and remarkable amount of a courtroom experience. And so the question, obviously, is would a criminal defendant appearing before you believe he has even a fighting chance for justice? What's your answer?
Yes, you would, Chairman. Every time I approach a case as an individual case. I evaluate the case individually. I evaluate the evidence individually. I evaluate the individual that's before me. And I make an assessment and a judgment as to how to proceed with that case. And I think that would serve me well as a judge. I would be able to look at the case, judge the individual in front of me, and enforce the law impartially and fairly.
Judge Basis, I'm looking through here for the statement about your experience. You've tried approximately 150 cases to verdict in courts of record. As a state court judge for nearly 10 years, you presided over 545 cases, and a federal magistrate judge since 2017, presided over 5 trials. Tell me about that experience as you move forward to a district court level.
Well, obviously, I have had a lot of trial experience, both as a judge and as a litigator. That all has prepared me to be in a court that has trials. And being able to use all of that experience that I have gained and in our district, we are having trials, both civil and criminal, and we have a very heavy docket. And so that experience that I already have would serve me well if I'm so fortunate to be confirmed to the district court.
Thank you. Judge Merriweather, you're want to move and aspire to the Court of Claims, which is a little different world than you've been serving in as magistrate. What are the major differences?
Thank you, Chair Durbin. The biggest difference between the district court and the Court of Federal Claims is that the Court of Federal Claims solely hears cases brought against the United States that are civil, so there is no criminal docket. I currently have a criminal docket as a magistrate judge. Conveniently, my background before becoming a magistrate judge was entirely civil in nature. I have 25 years, if you add it all up together, of experience doing complex civil litigation, and that has prepared me very well, should I be so fortunate to be confirmed to be a judge on the Court of Federal Claims.
Thank you. I just say in closing, Judge Rankin, I've had many conversations with Senator Barrasso about your background, and I've reviewed it carefully, and I think that the White House has made a good choice, and I'm glad that you're here, and thank you, Judge Scheidler, as well. I'm going to turn to Senator Cornyn at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you pointed out, it's a long road to get here. A lot of scrutiny, a lot of vetting. Both Judge Scheidler pointed to the Federal Judicial Evaluation Committee that Senator Cruz and I have appointed, a bipartisan committee of the best lawyers in the state of Texas, who evaluated both Mr. Gonzalez and Judge Scheidler's credentials and recommended them to us, and we agreed with that recommendation and made that recommendation to the president, and he nominated each of these outstanding candidates. So once again, it demonstrates we can actually get along and get things done here in a bipartisan way. And I'm really very pleased with both of these nominations. But Mr. Gonzalez, Chairman Durbin pointed out your extensive trial experience, and Judge Bezos talked about hers. You know, as a recovering judge and lawyer myself, I have a strong bias that judges ought to have tried, as a lawyer, jury trials before they take the bench and then preside over those trials. But can you talk a little bit about that experience and what sort of insight that's given you that you will now use in your capacity as a federal district judge?
Sure. It's been mentioned that I've had all these jury trials, and obviously I've been successful in prosecuting large drug conspiracies, international drug conspiracies, and traveled all over South America doing this. But I don't do these things alone. A jury trial requires a team. So I've always been very fortunate to surround myself with other individuals that are part of my team. And not only do they learn from me, as you mentioned, as a mentor to that individual, but I also learn from them, because those individuals also bring their own set of skills. And it's a team effort. So what I've learned through my trial experience is it's not one person alone. It takes a team, not only your co-counsel, your second chair that's with you, putting the case together, trying the case, convincing the jury, but also your staff that works behind the scenes, your paralegals, your legal assistants, your IT people setting up your presentation. Throughout my tenure now, almost 3 decades, presentation of a case to a jury has changed. When I first started, we had an Elmo, and we flopped the evidence on the Elmo, and that's all we had. Now we have PowerPoints, and we have all this electronic equipment to use to present evidence to a case. So I would look for individuals that had that kind of talent to surround myself so that we could present the case more efficiently and more concisely so that the jury would understand what we were doing. So although those numbers may seem like there are large numbers of jury trials, I didn't do that alone. I did it with a great group of people surrounding me.
Judge Scheidler, both you and Mr. Gonzalez have been nominated to border courts. And I'm not sure most of the members of the committee really fully understand the nature of the docket that you have in El Paso and that you have in Del Rio. Could you describe the docket that you have?
Yes, Senator Cornyn. We are on the Texas-Mexico border, and El Paso is the epicenter of a lot of what goes on there. Our docket is overwhelmingly criminal, as you might imagine, and it's always been since dating back to the 70s. It's probably 75 to 80% criminal. So what we as judges have to do is bear that in mind. We've got to take the cases as they come to us. We process them, and we close them. Bearing in mind, though, that there is a civil docket on the other side that we need to get to, and we have to get those cases accomplished. So it's twofold, handling an enormous criminal docket, which is nonstop, but at the same time, taking care to ensure that our responsibility to handle the civil docket is done.
A lot of drug and immigration cases?
That's correct, along with gun cases and human smuggling cases.
And Mr. Gonzalez, I'm not sure people appreciate the personal danger associated with prosecuting drug cartels like you've done. Could you spend 30 seconds explaining what that's meant in your personal experience?
Yes, Senator. I've been personally threatened on 5 occasions. On 2 occasions, I had to move out of my home with my wife and child and live outside of my home for several months at a time. My wife and my daughter have always been supportive and never questioned my dedication to public service, my dedication to doing this job. But it is a dangerous job, and I have had the occasions of being threatened on 5 occasions and twice having to be deputized as a U.S. Marshal, to carry a gun, to wear a bulletproof vest at all times, being escorted to court and home, and changing my way of life, taking a different route home, turning on my alarm when we're at home, not just at night. So yes, it is a dangerous role to be a drug prosecutor on the border.
Thank you. Thanks, Senator Cornyn. Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the nominees may know, if they've watched prior nomination hearings like this one, I want to begin my questioning by discussing what I consider is an important issue for the federal judiciary, and that's the topic of clerk diversity. Not just diversity of folks who are serving on the bench. I'm speaking to law clerks that provide an invaluable service. As many of the candidates who appear before us know from personal experience, serving as a federal clerk can be a powerful start to a legal career, whether you stay in the public service side or whether you pursue a private sector career. Young lawyers with the opportunity to receive important guidance and mentorship from a judge is a tremendous help, especially early in a career. But too often, the statistics show us that diverse young lawyers are not afforded the same opportunities to clerk, despite being equally qualified for these positions. With that said, my question for each of you is this. Do you believe diversity within the judiciary is important? If so, why? If not, why not? And what would you do, if confirmed, to contribute to the diversity within your chambers? We'll start with Judge Bezos.
Thank you. I do think diversity is important for the whole court system, from staff to judges, because I think it's important that the community sees that there are people like them that are within the court system. I think it gives some credibility to the court system from that perspective. And as to clerks, I think it is important to have different perspectives and views within your chambers. And so for me, if I was fortunate enough to be confirmed, I would cast a wide net in order to interview a diverse group of people.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gonzalez.
For some of the same reasons, Senator, I think for three basic reasons, I think that diversity in the judiciary as well as law clerks brings with it different perspectives from different walks of life to the issues that the court has to deal with on a daily basis. Secondly, it gives the public confidence that their interests and their views are going to be considered by the court seriously and fairly. And lastly, diversity in the judiciary as well as in law clerks exemplifies the diversity that exists in this great nation. And it also is reflective of the community that we have to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Senator. I agree with the comments of my fellow nominees, and I would add that I believe, and in my experience, diversity brings strength. I have had the great privilege of having mentored over the course of many years a diverse set of individuals from all walks of life. I would continue that commitment in my chambers were I to be confirmed.
Thank you.
Senator, thank you for your question. I too agree with my fellow nominees. Diversity is important. It's a reflection of who we are as citizens of this great country. It's a reflection of the litigants that come before us in the courtroom. During my nearly 12 years as a magistrate judge, I routinely hire folks of different backgrounds and experiences. Our chamber staff is diverse, and it's an opportunity for different experienced people to come before the court and work for the court. So I do think it's important, and I would continue in that effort if so lucky to be confirmed.
Thank you.
Senator, I join what my colleagues have said already. I would also add that there are opportunities for judges to attend functions where they can have one-on-one communication with law students. I attended one last April that was open to everybody, but there was a particular reach out to underrepresented communities in law schools where the judges had a chance to sit down, explain what judges are looking for when they interview law clerks, and give the law students ideas about the tools that they might need to make them the most qualified candidates when the time came for applying for law clerkships.
Great.
Thank you, Senator. I agree with my colleagues about the importance of diversity. It helps bolster public confidence in the courts. I believe the courts are a place where people want to be heard. And when a person appearing in court sees that the people who are listening to what they are presenting to the court come from a variety of backgrounds and experiences, I think that enhances their ability to feel confident that they will be heard fairly and impartially and will not be disregarded because of what their life experiences are, where they come from, where they reside, or other unique aspects. So I really believe that diversity helps with that. In terms of what I would personally do, if confirmed as a magistrate judge, I have hired law clerks from a variety of backgrounds and experiences. If confirmed to the Court of Federal Claims, I would hope to continue to do so. In addition, I have repeatedly participated in panels that try to bring awareness about clerkship opportunities to law students here in DC, to hopefully expand the applicant pool so that students who perhaps might not have personal connections to attorneys and judges can learn what a clerkship entails and hear from judges about how they can perhaps better position themselves to have a chance at such a wonderful job opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator.
Mr. Chairman, I neglected to make a unanimous consent request involving some letters in support of Mr. Gonzalez's nomination. May I make those?
Of course.
Briefly? Mr. Chairman, I'd ask unanimous consent that letters from the League of United Latin American Citizens, the Hispanic National Bar Association, and the Mexican American Bar Association of Texas be made part of the record. They all relate to Mr. Gonzalez's nomination and confirmation.
Without objection, so ordered. Senator Lee.
Judge Allen, getting back to Senator Durbin's original question, can you just confirm to the committee that I was a very mousy, wallflower, unopinionated, and afraid to express myself in law school?
Thank you, Senator. I wish I could do that.
It was worth a try. Worth a try.
Reminder that the witness is under oath.
You've been involved in, as a lawyer and as a judge, about 75 trials. Is that right?
Correct.
A lot of cases never make it to trial. They either settle before they get there, or in many cases, they're resolved by a dispositive motion. In many cases, summary judgment is involved. The parties get to the point after conducting discovery that they conclude there's no genuine issue of material fact. And one of them files a motion for summary judgment. When there's a close case, or an arguably close case on a Rule 56 motion, you have any opinion on what's worse, granting a meritorious dispositive motion under Rule 56, or failing to grant one that is meritorious?
Well, Senator, I appreciate the question, and I'm certainly cognizant of the dilemma that you have posed there. And I can tell you that I find no virtue in either option that you've given me. I have litigated summary judgment motions as a lawyer. I have ruled on them as a judge. And it is my intention in all of those circumstances to get it right. It is not my inclination to take the easy way out. And getting it right on summary judgment is a heavy lift.
Right.
But I study the issues carefully, and I'm aware that some believe that having one's day in court is the automatic out in a close case.
And what do you mean by that when you say having one's day in court?
Meaning denying the motion for summary judgment.
And thus allowing the case to proceed to trial.
Correct. If you deny the motion for summary judgment, the case proceeds. I think some believe it will likely settle, and so that's the safer option.
So is that what you referred to a minute ago when you said the easy way out?
Correct.
Because it's easier to deny the motion for summary judgment than to grant. Why is that?
Well, because it takes a lot of heavy lifting to carefully review the filings and to write the significant order in support of a granting of a motion for summary judgment.
So that's more likely to involve an opinion rather than just a simple order saying there's...
Correct.
Yeah.
And judges with busy dockets, I think everyone wants to get it right, of course, but judges with busy dockets may err on the side of caution and say, let me deny the motion. That's a quick, just a really quick order. But I believe that the more courageous approach is to carefully consider those issues and really to make the ruling that is demanded by the law and the facts. And were I to be so fortunate as to be confirmed into this role, I would continue to my commitment to not taking the easy way out and to making the brave decision in whichever manner the law and the facts support, and then standing behind that, whatever comes.
So if I understand you correctly, neither one is more defensible than the other. They're both bad. They're both equally indefensible.
Yes, absolutely.
The temptation is greater to deny the dispositive motion.
In my experience, that is absolutely the case, Senator.
And so, in other words, the judge needs to look out for that temptation among judges, because if you do that, the case may well settle long before it gets to trial.
Correct.
By the way, what tends to take more time, your average criminal case or your average civil case, or is there a difference?
In the judicial or in the lawyering context?
In the judicial context.
In my experience, civil cases have more nuances, more heavy lifting in terms of the handling of those matters. Certainly all are important, and I give full attention to all matters before me, but they usually have the more dense subject matter in terms of preparation.
Right. Some of that probably relates to the prevalence of the dispositive motion in civil litigation. Not as much of that. You have other kinds of motions.
Certainly.
Trial.
Certainly.
All right. I see my time's expired. Thank you. I was hoping you could confirm the Wallflower thing, but, worth a shot.
Senator Kennedy.
Congratulations to each of you. Judge Merriweather, you've been nominated to the Court of Federal Claims, is that right?
Yes, Senator.
How many motions have you argued in the Court of Federal Claims?
I have argued hundreds of motions involving complex civil claims in numerous courts. The Court of Federal Claims is not one of those courts.
Okay, so the answer is 0.
That is correct, Senator.
Okay. How many cases have you tried in the Court of Federal Claims?
I have tried a civil case in the district court for the District of Columbia. Most of my cases have been resolved on motions. None of those cases have been in the Court of Federal Claims, although they involve similarly complex matters under civil laws.
So the answer is 0.
That is correct, Senator.
What is the, tell me the grounds for granting a new trial in the Court of Federal Claims?
All of the trials in the Court of Federal Claims are bench trials, and the Court of Federal Claims, although it is not bound by the federal rules of civil procedure, its rules mirror those rules when applicable. So it's my understanding that the same rules that would apply in the district court are also applied in that context. But if I were presented with a motion for a new trial, should I be confirmed as a judge on the Court of Federal Claims, I would, of course, consult the rules of court of the Court of Federal Claims.
So what are the grounds for granting a new trial?
My understanding is that a new trial, you would have to comply with the applicable rules.
I know that, but what are they? What are the grounds? You said that the rules are identical to the Court of Federal Claims and Federal District Court. I'm not sure that's accurate, but just tell me what are the grounds for granting a new trial in the Court of Federal Claims?
Senator, that is not an issue I have had occasion to consider before, despite my extensive civil experience and my familiarity, not only with the federal rules of civil procedure, but I've also reviewed the rules of the Court of Federal Claims. But if I were presented,
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead. Were you through?
I did not mean to speak over you.
That's okay. You go ahead, and I want you to finish your answer.
So I would, if I were presented with that question, should I be confirmed, I would, again, consult the rules and follow the precedent.
All right. Let me be sure, Judge, I understand your testimony. Can you tell me one single ground for granting a new trial in either a federal district court or the Court of Federal Claims as we sit here today?
Yes, if you misapplied, if there were gross misapplication of the law, certainly a litigant would argue for
Anything
a
else?
trial.
There are like 6 or 7 of them. Can you tell me any others?
Trials are so infrequent in the civil context, and although I have presided over bench trials and a jury trial, I have not been presented with a motion to have a new trial.
Okay.
So I've not.
Okay. What's a contract of adhesion?
A contract.
Excuse me.
Senator, I'm familiar with contract law, the concept of contracts of adhesion.
Yeah, you're going to say a lot of that. That's what Federal Court of Federal Claims does. What's a contract of adhesion?
Senator, the Court of Federal Claims does handle a lot of procurement cases. Those typically turn on interpretations.
Yes, ma'am, but I'm going to run out of time. What's a contract of adhesion? If you don't know, just tell me.
Senator, despite my extensive civil experience, including dozens of cases that include contract cases, I have not dealt with the question of what a contract of adhesion is, but should it be presented to me,
Sure.
I would.
You'll look it up. Okay. Do you remember a case, Judge, called United States v. Allen?
Yes, Senator.
You were reversed in that case, weren't you?
I made a pretrial detention decision for, I believe, 5 defendants. I believe that Mr. Allen was one of the defendants for whom the district judge disagreed.
Yes, ma'am. But you were reversed.
My pretrial detention ruling, I believe, was.
Do you remember a case called United States v. Johnson?
I have had multiple United States v. Johnsons. Are you referring to the pretrial detention matter?
In this case, you had a defendant who was charged with traveling with intent to engage in illegal sexual conduct with a kid. And the defendant also testified that he had, quote, had a sexual interest in minors and even had a sexual relationship with his daughter. You remember it now?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. And you were reversed in that case, weren't you?
I made a narrow decision in Johnston that he should be released for 21 days so that he could, and placed on home incarceration so that he could get cancer treatment that he had been unable to receive.
You wanted to let him go out for 21 days, is that correct?
I don't think that's an accurate characterization.
Well, that's what the district court judge said.
The district
court said, no way am I letting this guy out on the street for 21 days.
The district court judge concluded that his life was not at risk because he had had the medical appointment that he had not had when he appeared before me before the appeal. So under those new facts, the factual predicate for my temporary release decision no longer existed.
That's not the way I read it, Judge. Do you remember a case called United States v. Voucher and United States v. Patel? You were reversed in those cases, too, from trying to let somebody go, weren't you?
In those 2 cases, my flight risk assessment under the Bail Reform Act, I believe, was reversed by the district judge.
Okay. I'm out of time. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.
Senator Welch.
Thank you, Judge Merriweather. I just want to tell you that I get nervous every time Senator Kennedy starts asking these legal questions. I'd flunk, all right? So thank you, and you did very well. I want to just congratulate all of you for being here and express my gratitude to you for the service that you provide and the service you hope to give. I want to start with Judge Bezos. I was a former public defender, so I really appreciate that as part of your resume. In your capacity as a judge, How does the experience you had as a public defender, and as you know, many public defenders are now being nominated, and also many prosecutors, that criminal justice background is obviously helpful, but how does it inform you in your responsibilities as a judge?
In a couple of ways. First, the experience that I gained by being a public defender and the trial experience that I received, I would have not gotten anywhere else,
Right.
quite honestly. So, and having to be prepared in every single case, because every case I had was set for trial, and that was about 1,000 cases per year in the public defender's office. So that experience, obviously, to a trial judge was very helpful. Also, knowing and understanding the procedures within the courts to apply those, but also I appeared after leaving the public defender's office in front of a lot of judges, and there were things I liked they did and things that not so much. And so being, and what my clients wanted and what I wanted was someone who was going to be fair and impartial, listen to the facts of the case, feel that the lawyers and the defendant were being heard, as well as the prosecutor, and making a just and fair determination. And so that's what I've tried to do for the last 17 years as a judge.
Thank you. And Mr. Gonzalez, you were a prosecutor. Thank you very much. You were a prosecutor, or are, yeah. So same question. You know, you've got in the judicial system, you're defending or prosecuting, and it's a shared experience, even though you're on opposite sides. So just tell the committee, if you would, how your experience as a prosecutor would inform you in the role of the decider.
Yes, Senator. I've been fortunate to, everywhere that I've gone, I've had a very robust docket. So I've carried a lot of cases. My last case review had 150 cases, 900 defendants. That gives me the opportunity to communicate with opposing counsel, listen to their views, listen to the person that they're representing, their views, and what is it that they don't understand. And sometimes I've had the opportunity to converse with the defendants and explain the criminal justice system, explain the sentencing manual, the sentencing guidelines to them. So I get a good idea of what a defense attorney goes through in representation of that defendant. And as a judge, I would be sympathetic to that. I would be sympathetic to the role that the defense attorney has to play, as well as the prosecutor. Having the experience that I have of over 3 decades, I would use that experience. And I've also been before a lot of judges, and I've seen some judges with compassion, caring, and kindness, and I would probably model myself after them and try to be fair and impartial in everything.
Thank you. And Judge, is it Scheidlauer? Yeah, and you've had a lot of federal court litigation experience, and just tell us how you would see yourself acting in the role of judge.
Well, the best predictor of how it would be as a district judge is the last 8 years that I've served as a U.S. magistrate judge. And 8 years ago, I had to transition from being an advocate who loved trying cases to being a neutral arbiter. And that was a transition. I loved being a lawyer, and I loved trying cases. And but I set that aside, and I made that determination before I became a judge that I would have to set that aside. And I think it's been a good transition, and I'm proud of the record that I've had.
Okay. Thank you very much. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Welch. Senator Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to all of the nominees. Thank you all for being here. Judge Bezos, if I could just start with you. I want to ask you about this case, United States versus Bartunik, I think it is, from 2017. Do you remember this case?
I do.
This is a case in which you granted pretrial release to the defendant. It was a child pornography case. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Now, you said in your responses to the panel's questions that the defendant had no criminal convictions and had lived in Nebraska his entire life, and that he owned the home he was living in and was employed. I understand, however, at the time that you granted him release, the Omaha Police Department had an open investigation regarding the sexual assault of a 7-year-old child in which he was the subject. he was the suspect, and that was in the pre-sentence report. So just walk me through your thinking.
During the hearing, I asked for additional information from the government, and they couldn't give it to me, so we didn't have a lot of facts in regards to that. The facts and circumstances, there was no additional information that was provided to me at that time.
So you didn't know he was the subject of the investigation?
There may have been a mention, but the question I had was, well, what does that mean? Has there been a report made? Is he truly the suspect, or was his name just mentioned? What were the circumstances? And at that point in time, there was no additional information that could be given.
I see. So it looks like to me what was, according to the revised PSR, the Omaha Police Department has an open investigation regarding the sexual assault of a 7-year-old child, who's then identified with initials, in which the defendant is the subject. But you're saying that you thought that was not sufficient in order to guide your judgment?
Was that the pre-sentence report, which would happen after sentencing, versus the pretrial report, which is what I would get prior to bond setting?
Offers the following objections to the revised PSR. The defendant objects to the inclusion of any reference, and then it goes on to quote this material about the sexual assault. So you're saying you didn't have that information?
Correct. That would have been after sentencing.
Okay, so you weren't aware that...
At sentencing, prior to sentencing, after a plea, is when that information would...
Okay, so when you granted pretrial release, you were not aware that he was under investigation for the assault of a 7-year-old?
Based on what you're saying in that PSR, then no.
Well, is your memory any different? I mean, I can give these questions to you for the record if that would be more helpful. I just want to clarify the facts, because I just want to make sure. If you're telling me you didn't know about it, that's a very different thing.
Well, I don't believe I did.
Okay.
But
okay. We will. I tell you what. I'll give you some questions for the record on this, and that way, so that you don't have to rely on your memory.
And I can go back and look at the pre-sentence report.
That'd be great.
Or the pretrial report, which would tell me that.
Great. Fair enough. Thank you. Judge Merriweather, let me just ask you in my short remaining time here. I think Senator Kennedy was asking you about this case, United States versus Johnson, where you recommended the release of a sexual predator to get medical treatment. Is that right? Do I have the right case?
Senator, I recommended a 21-day, a temporary release for medical treatment after holding multiple hearings and giving the government multiple opportunities to get Mr. Johnston to his appointments, because as I noted in the opinion, I thought the charges were deeply disturbing. I take very seriously the danger to the community, and I found when I balanced the 4 factors that I had to consider under the Bail Reform Act, that it was only his history and characteristics, which was that at the time that issue was before me, he had an urgent need for diagnostic and treatment, cancer treatment,
Let me just say, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm almost out of time. I just want to make sure I understand the sequence, because I might, as to my questions on Judge Bezos, I might not have the sequencing right. So just, you can correct me here. So I thought the government filed an emergency appeal of your release order, and you were overturned by the D.C. District Judge because, for among other reasons, the predator here had been caught in a sting operation. He'd admitted to sexually abusing his 8-year-old daughter. He had been previously court-martialed for molesting a child when he was in the Air Force. That child was his adopted daughter, and he claimed to have sexually molested other children, and the government thought that releasing him was a terrible idea. The district court agreed with him. Agreed with the government. So I just wonder, in light of all of that, as you look back on it now, do you think it was a bad decision to recommend release for him?
2 things. First, all of the abuse that it was alleged was horrific. The charges that were in front of me did not involve the molestation of his daughter, which I believe had happened 15 years earlier. And my decision was not based solely on the nature of the charges. That's but one of 4 factors that the Bail Reform Act required me to consider. The factual predicate, as I highlighted in that opinion, I found it very challenging to even entertain the idea of releasing someone charged with such heinous crimes, as well as someone who had a history decades earlier of abuse. But I found that his own interest in self-preservation would, paired with stringent conditions, being under the custody of his wife for a limited period of time and only allowed to leave his home to go to the doctor in order to get the timely cancer treatment that he needed, that despite 3 opportunities he was unable to get through no intent, malicious intent of the government.
Can I just ask, this is it, Mr. Chairman, this is my last question. Can I just ask, I thought that he was getting cancer treatment, but your judgment was he wasn't getting enough or the right kind, but he was getting treatment. Is that not accurate?
No, that was the change between my ruling and the time of the reversal. I gave the government 3 opportunities to take him to the doctor, and I kept him detained despite it. He did not get to the doctor. I ordered him temporarily released so that he could see a cancer specialist, because cancer is a time-sensitive issue, as many of us know, with loved ones who are survivors of cancer. And then the next day, he got to the doctor. Had he been to the doctor, I would not have released him for 21 days. I didn't feel that he needed a specific doctor, which was the facts that were presented to the district judge. It was that he see any doctor so that he could timely have his cancer addressed. Unfortunately, that did not happen before he saw me, so I made the very difficult decision of ordering temporary release under stringent conditions so that could happen. It then happened, and so the need for it no longer existed. Had he seen the doctor before I ruled, I would have denied his motion, and I would have ordered that he remain detained.
Thank you for that explanation, Judge. I just note here in the notes, when you disclosed this case, which you did, to the committee, you said a significant factor in my ruling was that jail officials had repeatedly failed to transport the defendant to medical appointments, and he had a private physician who could promptly conduct testing and treatment. You did not release him using that word in its entirety, but it was for home treatment, home incarceration for this period of time. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Senator.
Thank you very much. I believe that's all of the senators who are going to be attending this hearing, and I want to thank all the nominees and their family and friends for their patience during this. One quick logistical note: questions for the record will be due to the nominees by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, January 31st, and the record will likewise remain open until that time to submit letters and similar materials. With that, the hearing is adjourned.